Up today, we got something special. The Taichi 9070 XT, because these have been restocking, at least at the local places that I can get stuff. The Radeon 9070 XT is a really interesting card because it's overclocked. See the OC sticker there, 16 gigabytes VRAM. This has been a really popular video card from AMD. We've taken a look at it in a Windows context, in the Linux context. It's a great card for Linux. This thing hits 3 gigahertz a lot. It's overclocked out of the box. And it shows in benchmarks. Like, you can actually see it. Let's take a closer look. So the ASRock Taichi here. I have to admit, I'm of two minds about this, because the 9070 XT out of the box, you know, we're talking about something that's on the order of 300 watts. But if you overclock it, it can use significantly more power. But for 300 watts, a cooler like this is overkill. They've even rigged up the middle fan to spin the opposite way so that there's less turbulence. And this shows this is a whisper quiet card even when it is in performance mode, even with a little bit of an overclock. Of course, also the AMD Adrenalin software has also been updated. You have the Auto OC feature, which will automatically overclock. It will attempt to overclock the card. But think of this as sort of a pre-binned, pre-tuned overclock. The Auto OC is not going to do anything for you beyond the OC that you get from this. And depending on the game, you can see turbo boosts up to 3.3 gigahertz. The other big difference this generation, if you've been sleeping on this, is ray tracing. AMD has perfectly reasonable, viable ray tracing performance. In a nutshell, the 9070 XTs that have launched so far have been right at 5070 Ti performance. A little better, a little worse, depending on the game. The XT is generally much better than the 5070, depending on the game. The 5070 Ti might not be quite as good as the 9070 XT, or the 9070 XT might not be quite as good as the 5070 Ti. This physical card has 3 DisplayPort 2.1 and 1 HDMI 2.1. It is a dual BIOS card. Dual BIOS cards are great if you're going to get experimental and flash around with things or try to find workarounds for things in Linux. I know some things about reset in Linux. It is not all bleak. Join us on the forums if you're into that kind of thing. I'll have an update that on the Level 1 Linux channel just as soon as I possibly can. But yes, I always like to start with the 3D Mark benchmarks, because sometimes they line up with reality and sometimes not. But generally, if the card isn't going to perform well in the 3D Mark benchmarks, that'll reflect somehow in at least some real-world gaming scenarios. So here, our Firestrike result, Port Royal, and Time Spy are all about where I would expect them to be for a 9070 XT. This card's pulling a little ahead. I mean, you know, it's like average 51,000, I'm getting 52,000 here in Firestrike. Okay, perfect, makes sense. Geekbench, I like to run Geekbench OpenCL and Vulkan tests. The Geekbench results on launch I thought were a little anomalous. I mean, not really when you unpack it, but okay, fine. Well, let's actually get to the real gaming benchmarks. And first up, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, surprisingly, this shows a significant performance uplift, I think, over the stock 9070 XT performance. The boost clock up to 3.1 gigahertz that ASRock has on their website, very nice. Also slightly conservative here, given that I could get 3.3. Your mileage may vary. They say up to 3.1 on their website. 2570 for their game clock. Monster Hunter Wilds looks pretty good with this card. You can sort of start to see why people are buying this card left, right, and center. AMD's having a good time with their cards, which is great. Now, obviously, it's not going to be able to play 4K in every AAA title, maybe medium or medium-low if you're really after 4K. But with upscaling and the other technologies that that you can leverage to do, software-enhanced performance, AMD cards do support frame generation. They don't support multi-frame generation that the 5000 series NVIDIA cards support, but these cards do support FSR4, and FSR4 is a dramatic improvement over FSR3. So if your game supports FSR4, or you're willing to hack FSR4 into your game to get it, even though it's not officially supported, it may work anyway. There are mods and things like that to enable FSR4. FSR4 is almost, but not quite, as good as the latest DLSS technology from NVIDIA. So if you've ever used FSR in the past and been disappointed, you really need to retry FSR 4, because FSR 4 is quite far from disappointing in my opinion. The one wrinkle, maybe not, is the power connector. This uses an NVIDIA style power connector. Dun, 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 dun. It's controversial for some. This is a 350 watt card, 400 watts if you overclock the bejesus out of it. 400 watts is a long way from 600 watts for that connector. If you have a reasonably recent power supply and the connection is good, it shouldn't be a problem, but this connector, like just in terms of current carrying capacity, this connector is inferior to what we've had in the past with the regular PCIe style power connectors. But I think that a lot of people really are tired of connecting 2, 3, 4 of those style connectors to their card just to get a stable experience. The other thing that's been really weird for several generations of graphics card now is that, you know, theoretically those cables can handle like 300 watts per cable, like maximum spec. 250-ish to give you a little bit more headroom, but like 300. So you could do 2 connectors on a card like this, but almost nobody would. It would be 3, and we see 3 connectors on competing cards. I like the idea of having one single power connector. Maybe we could go for a 16 pin that's you know, just 2 8 pins side by side that is physically compatible with 2 8 pins, but then you just, other solutions like building power delivery into the motherboard have been floated by you know, larger board makers, and then special versions of their cards to be able to do, you know, 1,000 watts of power delivery for the graphics card, but none of those are a really fantastic solution. I don't think that the problems with the 12V2 power connector are definitely real, but not super common in this generation. And with this card using on the order of 350 watts, I think that it would be a really outside chance that you would have problems. So if you're worried about that, don't let that be a deal breaker. But just when you get your system built and put together and you get the cable in there, just check the temperature every now and then. Just put your finger in there and it's like, okay, is this connector getting warm? Is it super hot? I used their FLIR imager to see if the connector was doing anything untoward. ASRock has done an excellent engineering job here. The cooling solution is top notch. Even with the OC configuration, the hotspot, like the memory hotspots were rarely over 82 degrees C. Most of the time in normal playthrough scenarios, we're talking, you know, the hottest hotspot on the card at like 76, 78 C, which is fantastic. So there's really not a lot else to complain about on this card. ASRock's done a great job with this. If you're looking to save a few bucks, I've also got the ASRock Steel Legend coming up. That one's also OC. It's really just going to depend on the price. Like, I suspect that if you wait this out for the supply that AMD is ramping and for everything going on in the industry, I think you'll be able to get this card at a reasonable price. Certainly don't pay hundreds and hundreds of extra dollars over what the cost of a 9070 XT should be, because the supply chain thing is going to work itself out. That said, if you get this card for a little bit over MSRP, that's going to be a pretty good deal. But whether or not it's a good deal is going to depend on all kinds of local pricing conditions, so you're going to have to use your brain. I can't tell you, like, go, no go. You just... Historically, typically, an OC card like this would be $50, maybe $100 over MSRP. The over-the-top cooling solution, like the 9070 XT, should be fine with a 2-slot cooling solution, especially because it's a 300-watt card. But pretty much every 9070 XT out there has an insane over-the-top cooling solution. The ASRock Taichi is even more insane over-the-top beyond that. So it doesn't need to be a 3-slot card, but it is. But because of that, it's also quiet, which is important to some people. So I get it. And is that worth $100 over MSRP? Maybe, but historically it's been $30 to $50. It's been in the $30 to $50 range. This is 2025, supply chain tariffs, you know, those are all new variables. I don't know. I'm one of those level 1 has been a quick look at the Taichi 9070 XT real world gaming scenarios. If you pick one up, post in the build, or post a picture of your build in the forum at level 1. Love to see it. All right, that's enough rambling for me. I'm signing out, and I'll see you later.